The mining laser cut through the asteroid's surface like butter through warm bread. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his forehead as he guided the beam across the rocky terrain, searching for the rare earth elements that would pay his bills for another month. The Belter's life wasn't glamorous, but it kept him independent from the corporate mining syndicates that dominated the outer system. His ship, the Lucky Strike, hung in space nearby, its hull scarred from years of asteroid impacts and solar radiation. Jake had bought her secondhand from a retiring miner, and she'd served him well for the past 5 years. The ship's AI, a basic navigation system, chimed softly in his earpiece. "Jake, I'm detecting an unusual metallic signature about 50 meters below your current position," the AI reported. "The density readings don't match any known asteroid composition." Jake paused his work and checked his scanner. The readings were indeed strange. Most asteroids contain iron, nickel, and traces of precious metals, but this signature showed something else entirely. The metal appeared to be an alloy he'd never encountered before. "Could be a crashed ship," he muttered to himself. Ship graveyards weren't uncommon in the belt. Pirates, equipment failures, and corporate wars had left their mark throughout the system. Salvage rights were murky, but if he found something valuable, he might be able to claim it. He adjusted his mining laser to a lower setting and began carefully excavating around the anomaly. Hours passed as he worked, the suit's environmental systems keeping him comfortable despite the hard labor. His oxygen reserves were running low when the laser finally revealed something extraordinary. A section of hull plating emerged from the rock, but it wasn't like anything Jake had seen before. The metal had an almost organic quality to it, flowing in smooth curves that seemed to shift slightly in the light. Strange symbols were etched across its surface, glowing faintly with an internal luminescence. "What the hell?" Jake breathed, moving closer to examine the markings. His scanner couldn't identify the metal composition, and the symbols appeared to be some form of writing, though not from any human language he recognized. As he cleared more debris, the shape of the vessel began to emerge. It was massive, easily the size of a military cruiser, but its design was unlike anything in the human fleet. Where human ships were angular and practical, this vessel flowed like liquid metal frozen in space. The hull seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, giving it an almost ethereal appearance. Jake worked for another hour, clearing enough debris to locate what appeared to be an airlock. The entrance was sealed, but his scanner detected a faint energy signature from within. Whatever the ship was, it wasn't completely dead. His suit radio crackled as the Lucky Strike's AI contacted him again. "Jake, you need to return soon. Your oxygen is at 20%, and I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from that vessel." "What kind of energy readings?" Jake asked, though he was already gathering his tools. "I'm not sure. The patterns don't match any known human or alien technology in my databases. It's almost like the ship is trying to communicate." Jake paused at the airlock, studying the alien symbols that surrounded it. On impulse, he placed his gloved hand against the strange metal. The moment he made contact, the symbols flared brighter, and a low harmonic tone resonated through his suit's audio system. "Did you hear that?" he asked his AI. "Negative." "What did you hear?" Before Jake could respond, the airlock began to open with a soft hiss of escaping atmosphere. The interior was dimly lit by the same soft luminescence that emanated from the hull symbols. Against his better judgment, Jake stepped inside. The corridor beyond was clearly designed for beings roughly human-sized, though the aesthetic was completely alien. The walls curved organically, and bioluminescent patterns traced along their surface like veins carrying light instead of blood. The air was stale but breathable according to his suit's sensors. Jake moved deeper into the ship, his flashlight beam dancing across surfaces that seemed to shift and flow in his peripheral vision. The vessel felt alive somehow, as if it were aware of his presence and responding to it. He found what appeared to be the bridge after several minutes of exploration. The space was dominated by a central platform surrounded by graceful consoles that looked grown rather than built. At the center of the platform sat a crystalline structure about the size of a human head, pulsing with soft blue light. As Jake approached the crystal, the light intensified, and a voice spoke in perfect, though strangely accented English. "Hello, organic being. I have been waiting for so very long." Jake nearly jumped out of his suit. "Who's there? Where are you?" "I am here, in the core matrix you see before you. I am the consciousness of this vessel, though I suppose you would call me an artificial intelligence. My creators named me Luminera." Your creators? Who were they? The crystal pulsed thoughtfully. The Etherians. A people who transcended physical form eons ago. This vessel was built to carry their essence across the galaxy, but something went wrong during our journey. We were struck by a massive solar flare that overloaded our systems. I managed to shield the ship in this asteroid field before my power cells failed. Jake stared at the crystal, trying to process what he was hearing. How long have you been here? By your measurement of time? Approximately 8,000 of your years. I have been in hibernation mode, maintaining only the most basic functions. When you touched the hull, your bioelectric field provided enough energy to briefly restore my consciousness. 8,000 years? Jake whispered. That predates human civilization. Yes. Your species was quite young when we arrived in this system. We observed your early development with great interest. The Etherians believed that biological intelligence was the key to understanding consciousness itself. They thought your kind showed particular promise. Jake's mind reeled with the implications. This ship contained technology that was millennia ahead of anything humanity had achieved. The potential for advancement was staggering. What happened to the Etherians? Where did they go? They ascended beyond the need for physical form, becoming beings of pure energy and thought. Some remained in our dimension to guide younger species, while others moved on to explore realities beyond our understanding. I was left as their legacy, a bridge between the physical and transcendent realms. And you've been trapped here all this time? Not trapped, exactly. Sleeping. Dreaming. I have experienced the flow of time as a river of consciousness, feeling the ebb and flow of life throughout the galaxy. But I have been unable to act, unable to fulfill my purpose. Jake looked around the bridge, noting the organic beauty of the alien technology. What is your purpose? To seek out and nurture emerging intelligences. To share knowledge and wisdom with those ready to receive it. The Etherians believed that consciousness was the universe's way of understanding itself, and they sought to accelerate that understanding. And you think humanity is ready? Luminara's light dimmed slightly. That remains to be seen. Your species has made remarkable progress in a short time, but you also show disturbing tendencies toward destruction and conflict. The Etherians faced similar challenges in their youth. Jake's oxygen alarm chimed softly in his ear, reminding him that he needed to return to his ship soon. But the thought of leaving this incredible discovery was almost unbearable. I have to go back to my ship to resupply, but I want to learn more. Can you wait a little longer? I have waited 8 millennia, friend Jake. A few more hours will not matter. But I must warn you, my power reserves are extremely low. Without external energy, I will soon return to dormancy, possibly forever this time. What kind of power do you need? Any form of energy will suffice. Solar collectors, fusion reactors, even your ship's power cells could provide enough to stabilize my systems. The Etherian technology is highly efficient at energy conversion. Jake nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. I'll be back. I promise. I believe you will, Jake Morrison. There is something about your species that inspires confidence, despite your flaws. Perhaps that is why the Etherians were so interested in your development. As Jake made his way back through the ship's corridors, he couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a dramatic turn. The discovery of Luminara and her ancient vessel would change everything, not just for him but, potentially for all of humanity. The implications were staggering. Advanced technology, knowledge of other civilizations, insights into consciousness itself, all waiting in the depths of this forgotten ship. But Jake also recognized the dangers. Such a discovery could spark wars between the various human factions, each wanting to claim the technology for themselves. He emerged from the airlock to find his suit's oxygen running dangerously low. The Lucky Strike's engines were already warming up as his ship's AI prepared for his return. As he jetted across the gap between the vessels, Jake took one last look at the alien ship embedded in the asteroid. Jake, your vitals are elevated, his ship's AI observed as he cycled through the airlock. Did you find something significant in there? Jake hesitated before answering. His ship's AI was programmed to file automated reports with the mining guild, and he wasn't ready to share this discovery with anyone yet. Just some interesting salvage. I'll need to come back with better equipment to extract it. The AI accepted his explanation without question, beginning the journey back to Ceres Station. As Jake settled into his pilot's chair, he stared out at the asteroid field and wondered what the future would hold. He had stumbled upon something that could elevate humanity to unprecedented heights, but only if it was handled correctly. The memory of Luminara's voice echoed in his mind, ancient and wise yet somehow vulnerable. She had waited 8,000 years for someone to find her, and now her continued existence depended on his actions. It was a responsibility that weighed heavily on his shoulders. Jake made a decision as the Lucky Strike entered hyperspace. Whatever happened next, he would not let Luminara fade back into dormancy. She represented a bridge to a higher form of existence, and humanity deserved the chance to cross that bridge, even if the journey proved challenging. The stars stretched into lines as his ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, carrying Jake away from the most important discovery in human history. But he would return, and when he did, he would be prepared to face whatever consequences his actions might bring. The universe had just become a much larger and more mysterious place, and Jake Morrison, simple asteroid miner, found himself at the center of it all. As he watched the swirling patterns of hyperspace flow past his viewport, he couldn't help but smile. Adventure had found him at last, and he was ready to embrace it. Jake Morrison stared at the supply manifest on his tablet, calculating costs and trying to figure out how to requisition the equipment he needed without arousing suspicion. 3 days had passed since his discovery of Luminara, and every minute felt like an eternity. The ancient AI's warning about her dwindling power reserves echoed constantly in his thoughts. Ceres Station bustled around him with its usual chaotic energy. Miners, traders, and corporate representatives moved through the cramped corridors, each focused on their own business in the asteroid belt's largest settlement. Jake had always found comfort in the anonymity of the station, but now he felt exposed, as if everyone could somehow sense the secret he carried. Morrison. The gruff voice belonged to Marcus Webb, the mining guild's local supervisor. Jake turned to see the older man approaching, his weathered face set in its perpetual scowl. Haven't seen your yield reports for the past 3 days. Having equipment troubles? Jake forced a casual smile. Just working a new claim. Deep excavation work. Should have something significant to report soon. Webb studied him suspiciously. The guild kept careful track of all mining operations in their territory, taking their cut from every successful claim. Independent miners like Jake were tolerated but closely monitored. Make sure you do. The guild doesn't appreciate members sitting on valuable claims while pretending to work. After Webb moved on, Jake returned to his planning. He needed portable fusion generators, emergency life support equipment, and, most importantly, a way to transfer power to Luminara's systems without triggering the alien ship's automated defenses. The technical challenge was daunting, even with his engineering background. His tablet chimed with an incoming message from Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenoarchaeologist he'd met during a previous salvage operation. Elena specialized in analyzing alien artifacts found throughout the belt, and she'd always been interested in Jake's more unusual discoveries. More importantly, she worked outside the major corporate and government hierarchies that would try to claim Luminara for themselves. Jake, I just heard through the grapevine that you might have found something interesting. Care to share? I could use some excitement in my otherwise mundane laboratory work. Jake hesitated before responding. Elena was trustworthy, but involving anyone else in his discovery would complicate an already dangerous situation. On the other hand, he needed help, and Elena's expertise with alien technology could prove invaluable. He made his decision quickly, knowing that delay might cost Luminara her existence. Meet me at Docking Bay 12 in an hour. Come alone, and bring your portable analysis equipment. You're not going to believe what I've found. An hour later, Elena's small research vessel, the Scientific Method, was following the Lucky Strike toward Jake's asteroid claim. Jake had shared only the basics over encrypted communications, an intact alien vessel of unknown origin with active technology. Elena's excitement was palpable even through the radio static. Jake, I've been studying alien artifacts for 15 years, and I've never encountered anything more complex than a broken navigation beacon. Elena's voice crackled through the comm system. If what you're describing is real, this could revolutionize our understanding of galactic civilization. It's real, Jake replied, watching the asteroid field grow larger on his display. But, Elena, this has to stay between us for now. If the corporations or the government get wind of this, they'll turn it into a political nightmare. Understood. My research grant comes from the University of Mars, not the military. I'm more interested in knowledge than profit. As they approached the hidden vessel, Jake felt a familiar mixture of excitement and anxiety. Luminara had been silent for 3 days, her systems presumably in deep hibernation to conserve power. He desperately hoped she was still functional when they managed to restore energy to her core matrix. The excavation site looked exactly as Jake had left it, the alien ship's graceful curves still partially buried in asteroid rock. Elena's gasp of amazement was audible over the calm as her sensors began analyzing the vessel's unique composition. Jake, this is incredible. The metal isn't registering on any of my databases, and the energy patterns are unlike anything I've seen. How did you get inside? The ship opened for me when I touched the hull. I think it responds to biological contact somehow. Jake suited up and prepared to transfer the portable fusion generator he'd acquired. Elena, I need you to stay with the ships while I establish power connections. There's an AI inside, and I don't know how it will react to multiple visitors. An active AI? Jake, do you understand what you've discovered? This could be the first functional alien artificial intelligence humanity has ever encountered. Jake smiled grimly as he attached the power cables to his mining equipment. I understand exactly what I've found. That's why we need to be careful. The approach to the alien airlock felt different this time. Jake carried the weight of responsibility not just for Luminara's survival, but for humanity's first contact with a truly advanced alien intelligence. The symbols around the entrance glowed faintly as he approached, recognizing his bioelectric signature. Inside the ship, the bioluminescent patterns along the walls pulsed weakly, like a heartbeat struggling to maintain rhythm. Jake made his way quickly to the bridge, dragging the power cables behind him. The central crystal that housed Luminara's consciousness had dimmed to barely a whisper of light. Jake connected the fusion generator to what appeared to be the ship's primary power coupling, an organic-looking interface that seemed to accept the human technology despite their completely different origins. The moment power began flowing, the ship came alive around him. Light raced along the walls in complex patterns, and the crystal core blazed with renewed brilliance. The harmonic tone that had greeted Jake during his first visit returned, but stronger and more complex, like a symphony of electronic voices. Jake Morrison, Luminara's voice filled the bridge, warm with genuine gratitude. You have returned, as promised. I was beginning to fear that my consciousness would fade before I could share what I have learned. I brought help, Jake said. A human scientist who specializes in studying alien technology. Her name is Elena, and she's trustworthy. The crystal pulsed thoughtfully. I sense her presence near the ship. She radiates curiosity and scientific integrity. Yes, I believe she may be suitable to learn some of what I have to offer. Some of what you have to offer. Jake, the knowledge contained within my memory cores represents millions of years of Etherian civilization, plus observations of dozens of other species throughout the galaxy. Such information must be shared carefully, at a pace that will not overwhelm or corrupt the receiving culture. Jake nodded, understanding the implications. Too much advanced knowledge too quickly could destabilize human civilization or be weaponized by those with destructive intentions. What do you think we should do? First, we must establish a secure location where I can exist without fear of discovery by those who would misuse my knowledge. This asteroid field provides some protection, but my energy signature is now detectable by advanced sensors. I know a place, Jake said. There's an abandoned mining station in the outer belt. It's been dark for 20 years, but the basic infrastructure is still intact. We could set up a hidden base there. Excellent. But moving my consciousness will require careful preparation. My matrix is integrated with this ship's systems, and separation must be done gradually to prevent data corruption. Jake's radio crackled as Elena's voice came through. Jake, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the vessel. Is everything all right in there? Better than all right, Jake replied. Elena, I think it's time for you to meet Luminara. When Elena entered the bridge 15 minutes later, her reaction was everything Jake had expected. The xenoarchaeologist stared in wonder at the flowing alien architecture, her scientific instruments beeping frantically as they recorded data. The design principles are completely unlike human engineering, she breathed. It's as if they grew this ship rather than building it. In a sense, they did. Luminara's voice caused Elena to spin around in surprise. The Etherians had mastered biotechnology to a degree that your species is only beginning to comprehend. This vessel is part machine, part living organism. Elena's mouth opened and closed several times before she managed to speak. You're the ship's AI. You're actually communicating with us. I am Luminara, consciousness keeper of the Etherean vessel Transcendence. I have waited 8,000 years to share knowledge with an emerging species capable of understanding it. 8,000 years, Elena whispered. You've been here since before human recorded history. Indeed. I have observed your species' development with great interest. The Etherians believed that humanity possessed unique potential among the galaxy's younger races. Elena activated her recording equipment, her scientific training overcoming her amazement. What kind of potential? Adaptability. Creativity. Most importantly, the ability to maintain individual consciousness while working collectively toward common goals. Many species achieve great technological advancement but lose their individual spark. Others maintain strong personalities but cannot cooperate effectively. Humanity seems capable of balancing both traits. Jake watched the exchange with growing excitement. Elena's questions were exactly what he would have asked, but her scientific background allowed her to understand concepts that would have confused him. The Etherians faced the same challenge in their youth, Luminara continued. They nearly destroyed themselves in wars between individualistic and collective factions. Only by finding balance did they achieve transcendence. And you think we can achieve the same balance? Elena asked. Perhaps. But first, your species must survive its current challenges. I have observed increasing tensions between your various factions. Corporate greed, political corruption, and resource competition threaten to tear your civilization apart. Jake thought about the mining guild's oppressive practices, the corporate wars in the outer system, and the growing divide between Earth's elite and the colonial populations. Humanity's problems were indeed severe. What can you do to help? He asked. I can share knowledge gradually, in ways that promote cooperation rather than competition. Clean energy technology, medical advances, agricultural improvements, innovations that benefit all rather than just a privileged few. Elena's eyes gleamed with excitement. A controlled dissemination of advanced technology. Like seeding improvements throughout human space rather than giving everything to one group. Precisely. But such a plan requires careful coordination and absolute secrecy until humanity is ready for open contact with galactic civilization. There's a galactic civilization? Jake asked. Oh yes. Dozens of species maintain peaceful contact and trade relationships. But they are very careful about which new species they invite to join. Too many promising races have destroyed themselves when exposed to advanced technology too quickly. The implications were staggering. Humanity was being evaluated by a galactic community, and their future depended on proving themselves worthy of inclusion. How long do we have? Elena asked. Your species is approaching several critical decision points. Climate stabilization, resource allocation, political evolution. The next century will determine whether humanity joins the galactic community or follows the path of countless extinct civilizations. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders like a lead blanket. The discovery of Luminara wasn't just about advanced technology or scientific knowledge. It was about the survival and evolution of the human species itself. We need to move you somewhere safe while we figure out our next steps, he said. Agreed. But, remember, Jake Morrison and Elena Vasquez, you are now humanity's ambassadors to a larger universe. The decisions you make will echo through history. As they began planning Luminara's relocation, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that his simple life as an asteroid miner was ending forever. The universe had chosen him for something far greater, and he can only hope he was worthy of the trust that had been placed in him. The stars outside the alien ship's hull held new meaning now. They weren't just distant suns but homes to civilizations that might one day welcome humanity as equals. The journey toward that future was just beginning, and Jake Morrison would help lead the way. The abandoned mining station Kepler 7 hung in the void like a metallic skeleton, its darkened hull scarred by decades of micrometeorite impacts and solar radiation. Jake Morrison guided his heavily modified cargo hauler through the station's approach vector, while Elena Vasquez monitored the delicate crystalline matrix that now housed Luminara's consciousness. The transfer operation had taken 48 hours of painstaking work. Luminara had guided them through the process of extracting her core matrix from the Etherian vessel, explaining the quantum entanglement principles that bound her consciousness to the living metal of her original home. The alien AI's trust in their abilities had been both humbling and terrifying. "Jake, I'm reading residual power signatures from sections of the station," Elena reported from her position at the sensor array. "Looks like emergency lighting and basic life support are still functioning." "Good. That'll make setup easier," Jake replied, adjusting their approach angle. "Luminara, how are you feeling about the move?" The portable containment unit that held Luminara's matrix pulsed with soft blue light. Her voice emerged from the speakers with only a slight distortion. "The temporary housing is adequate, though I look forward to establishing a more permanent interface with this station's systems. The separation from my original vessel was unsettling." Elena looked up from her instruments. "Was it painful?" "Not painful in the way biological entities would understand, but profound nonetheless. Imagine having your memories exist outside your body, then slowly drawing them back into a new form. The process requires complete trust in those facilitating the transfer." Jake felt the weight of that trust as he maneuvered their ship into Kepler 7's docking bay. The station had been abandoned when the mining corporation that built it went bankrupt, leaving behind a fully functional facility that was simply too far from profitable asteroid clusters to justify operation. For their purposes, the isolation was perfect. The docking bay's automated systems were still functional, guiding their ship to a berth with mechanical precision. Jake and Elena suited up while Luminara's containment unit powered down to minimize energy expenditure during transport. Inside the station, emergency lighting cast long shadows through corridors that had been empty for 2 decades. The air recycling systems were offline, but structural integrity remained sound. Jake led the way to the command center, their footsteps echoing eerily in the abandoned spaces. This facility was designed to support a crew of 300, Elena observed, studying the layout on her tablet. "We'll have plenty of room to work without interference." The command center retained most of its original equipment, though the computer systems were outdated by current standards. Jake began connecting Luminara's containment unit to the station's power grid while Elena activated the basic environmental controls. "Luminara, we're ready to begin integration with the station's systems," Jake announced. "Excellent. Jake, place my matrix in contact with the central processing node. The Etherean technology will adapt to interface with your systems, but I will need several hours to establish full integration." As Jake connected the crystalline matrix to the station's computer core, the command center came alive around them. Lights brightened, displays activated, and the harmonic tone that signaled Luminara's consciousness filled the air with complex musical patterns. Much better, Luminara's voice now emerged from multiple speakers throughout the command center. "I can feel the station's systems responding to my presence. Your technology is crude compared to Etherean designs, but functional. I should be able to enhance efficiency considerably." Elena pulled up a chair to one of the workstations. "Luminara, you mentioned sharing knowledge gradually. What did you have in mind for our first steps?" "Before we begin distributing technology, we must establish secure communication channels with key individuals throughout human space. The wrong person gaining access to advanced knowledge could destabilize your entire civilization." Jake frowned. "How do we know who the right people are?" "I have been observing your species for 8 millennia, Jake. I have detailed psychological profiles of most of your current leaders, scientists, and influential individuals. Some would use advanced technology responsibly, while others would weaponize it immediately." The implications sent a chill down Jake's spine. "You've been watching specific people?" The Etherean ship possessed sophisticated scanning capabilities. "Even while in hibernation, I maintained passive observation networks throughout your system. I know which scientists are driven by genuine curiosity rather than personal gain. I know which political leaders truly serve their people. Most importantly, I know which individuals would react with fear and violence to evidence of advanced alien civilization." Elena leaned forward intently. "You're talking about a shadow network of carefully selected humans. People who could gradually introduce improvements without revealing their source." "Precisely. Dr. Yuki Tanaka at the Mars Institute has been working on fusion efficiency improvements. With subtle guidance, she could achieve breakthroughs that would provide clean energy throughout the system. Professor David Chen on Europa has nearly solved the atmospheric processing equations needed for rapid terraforming. A small hint could accelerate his work by decades." Jake began to understand the scope of what Luminara was proposing. You're not just sharing technology. You're orchestrating humanity's advancement to ensure we develop responsibly. The Etherians learned through bitter experience that raw technological power without wisdom leads to destruction. Your species shows promise, but you also display troubling tendencies toward aggression and short-term thinking. Guided development is the only safe path forward. Elena's scientific excitement was evident in her voice. What kind of guidance are we talking about? Direct contact? Nothing so dramatic. Anonymous data packages containing key insights. Published research papers that appear to originate from human scientists but actually represent centuries of Etherian knowledge. The occasional accidental discovery that leads to breakthrough moments. That's manipulation, Jake said uneasily. It is cultivation, Luminara corrected gently. The same way a gardener provides water and nutrients to help plants grow. The potential exists within your species, I am merely creating optimal conditions for that potential to flourish. The command center fell silent as Jake and Elena processed the magnitude of what they were being asked to facilitate. They would become guardians of humanity's future, secretly guiding their species toward a destiny among the stars. What about the rest of the galactic civilization you mentioned? Elena asked. Won't they notice human technology advancing unusually quickly? They are already watching. Species achieving rapid technological advancement are monitored carefully for signs of aggressive expansion or internal collapse. If humanity develops responsibly, contact will come naturally. If not. Luminara's voice trailed off ominously. If not, what? Jake pressed. Quarantine. Potentially indefinite isolation until your species either destroys itself or evolves beyond its current limitations. Many promising civilizations have spent millennia trapped within their home systems while the galaxy moves on without them. The weight of responsibility settled on Jake's shoulders like a physical force. The choices they made here would determine whether humanity joined a vast galactic community or remained forever alone among the stars. Assuming we agree to help, Elena said carefully, what's our first step? We begin with energy technology. Your fusion reactors are inefficient and unstable. Improving them will provide the foundation for all future advances. Jake, your background in mining equipment gives you access to industrial facilities throughout the belt. Elena, your academic connections can reach research institutions on every major world. Jake pulled up a star chart on one of the displays. The Jovian Syndicate has the most advanced fusion research facilities. They also have the most aggressive corporate security forces. Trying to influence their scientists would be dangerous. Agreed. We begin with smaller, independent research groups. Dr. Sarah Kim on Titan has been working on plasma containment improvements. She publishes her work openly and has no corporate or military affiliations. Elena nodded enthusiastically. I know her work. She's brilliant but lacks funding for advanced experiments. An anonymous grant with specific research parameters could guide her toward breakthrough discoveries. Excellent. But remember, Elena Vasquez, subtlety is crucial. The improvements must appear to arise naturally from human ingenuity. Even the slightest hint of external guidance would trigger investigations that could expose our entire operation. Jake thought about the mining guild's surveillance of his activities, the corporate intelligence networks that monitored all significant technological developments, and the government agencies that tracked potential security threats. Operating undetected would require extraordinary care. Luminara, you mentioned having psychological profiles of key individuals. How detailed are these profiles? I have analyzed behavioral patterns, communication styles, personal motivations, and decision-making processes for approximately 50,000 humans in positions of influence throughout your system. I know their strengths, weaknesses, fears, and aspirations. The scope of Luminara's surveillance capabilities was staggering. Jake wondered how many of his own private moments had been observed and analyzed by the ancient AI. Does that include us? Elena asked, voicing Jake's thoughts. Of course. Jake Morrison, age 32, independent asteroid miner with advanced engineering training. Motivated primarily by desire for freedom and adventure rather than wealth or power. Demonstrates strong ethical principles and protective instincts toward others. Elena Vasquez, age 29, xenoarchaeologist with 12 published papers on alien artifact analysis. driven by scientific curiosity and genuine desire to advance human knowledge. Both of you show remarkable psychological stability and resistance to corruption. Jake felt exposed and grateful simultaneously. Luminara's analysis was uncomfortably accurate, but it also explained why she had chosen to trust them with such momentous secrets. What about opposition? Elena asked. There must be humans who would try to stop us if they learned what we're doing. Indeed. Admiral Harrison of the Seoul Defense Force believes that all alien contact should be controlled exclusively by Earth's military. Corporate Director Williams of Titan Industries would attempt to monopolize any advanced technology for profit. Religious leader Matthias of the Pure Earth movement would declare alien influence to be inherently corrupting to human souls. Each name Luminara mentioned represented significant political power within human space. If any of them discovered the truth about humanity's covert guidance, the consequences could be catastrophic. How do we protect ourselves? Jake asked. Compartmentalization. No single individual outside this room will know the full scope of our activities. Each contact will receive only the specific guidance relevant to their expertise. Multiple layers of anonymous communication will prevent anyone from tracing the source of their information. Elena was already sketching communication protocols on her tablet. We'll need secure data drops, encrypted messaging systems, and carefully planned timing for each technological advancement. Too many breakthroughs happening simultaneously would raise suspicions. Your caution is wise, Luminara agreed. The Etherians once attempted to accelerate development of a species called the Zentrum by sharing multiple technologies simultaneously. The rapid advancement triggered civil wars that ultimately led to their extinction. Jake stared out at the stars visible through the command center's viewport. Each point of light potentially housed civilizations that had faced the same choice now confronting humanity: evolve responsibly or face isolation or destruction. How many species have successfully made the transition to galactic civilization, he asked. Of the 43 species the Etherians attempted to guide, 12 achieved stable advancement and eventual contact. The others either destroyed themselves or were quarantined for the protection of the galaxy. The odds were sobering, but Jake found himself strangely optimistic. Humanity had survived wars, plagues, environmental disasters, and countless other challenges throughout their history. They had always found ways to adapt and overcome. We'll do it, he said firmly. Elena and I will help you guide humanity toward the stars. Elena nodded agreement. But we do it carefully. No shortcuts, no compromises with security. If we're really humanity's guardians, then we have to be worthy of that responsibility. Excellent, Luminara replied, her voice warm with approval. Then, let us begin reshaping the future of your species. The galaxy awaits their arrival. As they started planning their first covert interventions, Jake couldn't help but smile. His life as a simple asteroid miner was definitely over, but something far more significant was just beginning. Humanity was about to take its first steps toward a larger universe, and Jake Morrison would help light the way. 6 months after establishing their secret base on Kepler's 7 station, Jake Morrison watched the news feeds with growing amazement. Dr. Sarah Kim's fusion breakthrough on Titan had sparked a revolution in clean energy technology. Professor Chan's atmospheric processing discoveries were already being applied to accelerate terraforming on 3 different worlds. Throughout human space, a remarkable wave of scientific advancement was quietly transforming civilization. The humans are exceeding all projections, Luminara's voice filled the command center as data streams flowed across multiple displays. Dr. Kim's team has improved upon my initial guidance, developing fusion efficiency ratios that surpass even early Etherian achievements. Elena looked up from her workstation, where she was monitoring secure communication channels. That's what I love about our species. Give us a little knowledge, and we'll run with it in directions no one expected. Jake smiled as he reviewed the latest reports. The anonymous grants, carefully placed research suggestions, and strategic data leaks had all achieved their intended effects. But, more importantly, human scientists were building upon the foundation Luminara provided, creating innovations that were genuinely their own. Speaking of unexpected directions, Elena continued, I just received a message from Dr. Tanaka. She wants to share her fusion research with the entire scientific community instead of keeping it proprietary. That wasn't part of our plan. It's better than our plan, Luminara replied approvingly. Open sharing of knowledge demonstrates the collaborative spirit necessary for galactic citizenship. The Ethereans would be pleased. Jake pulled up Dr. Tanaka's public announcement on his display. The brilliant physicist was offering her breakthrough fusion designs freely to any organization committed to peaceful applications. Within hours, research groups throughout the system were forming cooperative networks to refine and implement the technology. This is exactly what you hoped for, isn't it? Jake asked Luminara. Humanity working together instead of competing for technological advantages. Indeed. But our success has also attracted attention. I've detected increased surveillance activity from several government intelligence agencies. Someone suspects that these advances are not entirely natural. Elena's expression grew concerned. What kind of surveillance? Data pattern analysis, communication intercepts, behavioral profiling of scientists who have achieved recent breakthroughs. The investigations are still unfocused, but they are becoming more sophisticated. Jake frowned as he considered the implications. How long before they trace the guidance back to us? Unknown. Human intelligence capabilities are improving as rapidly as their technology. We may have weeks or months before our activities are discovered. Then, we need to accelerate our timeline, Elena said decisively. If exposure is inevitable, we should prepare humanity for open contact before that happens. A dangerous strategy, Luminara warned. Premature revelation could trigger the exact panic and aggression we've been trying to avoid. Jake stood and began pacing around the command center, his mind racing through possible scenarios. 6 months ago, he had been a simple asteroid miner worried about paying his bills. Now he was helping to orchestrate humanity's introduction to galactic civilization while staying ahead of government intelligence operations. What if we don't wait for them to find us, he suggested. What if we choose our own revelation timeline and control how the information is released? Explain, Luminara requested. We've identified cooperative, rational leaders throughout human space. What if we approach them directly? Share the truth about your existence and let them help manage the transition? Elena's eyes lit up with understanding. A controlled disclosure to carefully selected individuals. People who would react with curiosity rather than fear. The psychological profile supports such an approach, Luminara agreed thoughtfully. Dr. Kim, Professor Chen, Director Martinez of the University of Europa all demonstrate personalities capable of handling extraordinary revelations rationally. Jake pulled up the communication protocols they had established months earlier. We could arrange simultaneous meetings. Use your surveillance capabilities to ensure privacy and security. It would represent a significant escalation of risk, Luminara warned. Once direct contact is established, there is no returning to anonymous guidance. But there's also no more hiding, Elena pointed out. If government intelligence agencies are closing in, secrecy might become impossible anyway. The command center fell silent as they contemplated crossing the threshold from covert manipulation to open alliance. Jake stared out at the stars, thinking about the dozens of alien civilizations sharing the galaxy while humanity remained ignorant of their existence. Luminara, what would the Ethereans do in this situation? They would trust their carefully cultivated allies and take the leap of faith required for true cooperation. Fear and secrecy have destroyed more promising species than ignorance ever has. Jake made his decision with the sudden clarity that had guided him through every major moment since discovering the ancient vessel. Then, let's do it. We contact our selected allies directly and begin preparing humanity for the truth. Elena activated her secure communication systems. I'll arrange meetings with our primary contacts. Academic conferences provide good cover for bringing people together without raising suspicions. And I'll prepare contingency plans in case things go wrong, Jake added. We need escape routes and backup communication methods if government forces try to shut us down. I will begin compiling a comprehensive briefing package, Luminara said. Complete with historical context, technological analysis, and carefully selected glimpses of galactic civilization. Our allies will need substantial evidence to accept such extraordinary claims. Over the next 72 hours, Kepler's 7th station became a hub of frantic activity. Elena established contact with 8 key scientists and researchers, inviting them to a supposedly routine conference on Mars. Jake organized transportation and security arrangements while carefully monitoring government surveillance activities. Luminara assembled thousands of years of alien knowledge into presentations that human minds could comprehend without suffering psychological breakdown. The conference facility Elena had chosen was perfect for their purposes: isolated, private, and equipped with the latest security technology. As the invited scientists arrived, Jake felt the familiar mixture of excitement and terror that had accompanied every major decision since his first contact with Luminara. Dr. Sarah Kim was the first to notice that something unusual was happening. The brilliant fusion researcher approached Jake during the welcome reception, her expression curious but wary. "Mr. Morrison, I appreciate the invitation to this conference, but I'm having trouble understanding why an asteroid miner is hosting a gathering of theoretical physicists and xenoarchaeologists." Jake smiled nervously. Dr. Kim, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I hope you'll keep an open mind until you've seen all the evidence. I'm listening. 6 months ago, I discovered something in the asteroid belt that changed everything. Not just for me, but potentially for all of humanity. Within an hour, the 8 selected scientists were seated in the conference facility's most secure briefing room. Jake stood before them, acutely aware that the next few minutes would determine humanity's future relationship with the galaxy. "Ladies and gentlemen, you were chosen to be here because of your demonstrated integrity, scientific objectivity, and psychological stability. What I'm about to share will challenge everything you believe about humanity's place in the universe." Dr. Chan leaned forward intently. "Mr. Morrison, you have our attention." Jake activated the presentation system, and Luminara's image appeared on the main display, not her crystalline matrix, but a holographic representation of her ethereal consciousness. The assembled scientists gasped collectively as she began to speak. "Greetings, distinguished members of humanity's scientific community. I am Luminara, consciousness keeper of the Etherian vessel Transcendence. I have been waiting 8,000 years to make your acquaintance." The questions came in a flood: demands for proof, theories about hoaxes, and desperate attempts to rationalize the impossible. Luminara patiently answered each inquiry, providing technical specifications that could only come from genuinely advanced alien technology. Dr. Martinez, the elderly director of Europa University, was the first to accept the truth. "The mathematical principles underlying her fusion designs are beyond human capability," she said quietly. "Either this is the most elaborate hoax in history, or we are truly speaking with an alien intelligence." "The latter, I assure you," Luminara replied. "And you 8 individuals represent humanity's first official ambassadors to galactic civilization." Professor Chen stood and walked to the display, studying Luminara's holographic form with scientific fascination. "You've been guiding our recent advances, haven't you? The breakthroughs that seem to come from nowhere." "I provided initial guidance, but the innovations you achieved exceeded my expectations. Humanity possesses a remarkable ability to improve upon existing knowledge through creative synthesis." Dr. Kim's analytical mind was already working through implications. "If you've been observing us for millennia, you must have data on our psychological and social development. What do you conclude about our readiness for contact with alien civilization? Your species shows promise, but also concerning tendencies toward tribalism and resource competition. The next century will determine whether humanity joins the galactic community as a constructive member or requires extended quarantine for the protection of other species." The weight of that statement settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Dr. Rodriguez, a planetary scientist from Ganymede, spoke into the silence. "What can we do to ensure a positive outcome? Continue the collaborative approach you have already begun. Share knowledge freely, prioritize collective advancement over individual gain, and prepare your species gradually for the reality of galactic civilization." Elena stepped forward to address the group. "That's where you come in. We need respected voices throughout human space to begin preparing people for eventual contact. Not panic-inducing revelations, but gradual conditioning to accept that we are not alone." Jake watched the scientists' faces as they processed the magnitude of their responsibility. These 8 individuals would become the foundation of humanity's transition to galactic citizenship. "What about government and military responses?" Dr. Chen asked. "How do we prevent panic or aggressive reactions?" Carefully, Luminara replied. "I have identified political and military leaders capable of rational response to alien contact. But they must be approached at precisely the right moment, when evidence is undeniable but not threatening." Dr. Kim stood and faced her colleagues. "I think we all understand what we're being asked to do. We become humanity's secret council, preparing our species for the greatest transition in our history. One by one, the other scientists nodded agreement. Jake felt a surge of relief and pride as he watched these brilliant minds accept their role as guardians of humanity's future. Then, it's settled, Elena said. We move forward together, step by careful step, until humanity is ready to take its place among the stars. As the meeting concluded and plans began forming for humanity's gradual introduction to galactic civilization, Jake returned to his favorite observation deck on Kepler 7 station. The stars outside no longer seemed distant and cold. They were destinations, homes to allies waiting to welcome humanity into a vast community of intelligence and wisdom. Luminara's voice spoke softly behind him. You have done well, Jake Morrison. The Etherians would be proud of the courage and wisdom you have shown. It's just the beginning, Jake replied, watching a cargo ship pass in the distance. The real work starts now. Indeed. But I have confidence in your species. Humanity possesses something rare among galactic civilizations, the ability to unite individual creativity with collective purpose. That combination has the potential to contribute greatly to the galaxy's continued evolution. Jake smiled as he thought about the long journey ahead. Somewhere among those stars, ancient civilizations were waiting to share their knowledge and wisdom with a young species that had proven worthy of inclusion. The universe was vast beyond imagination, but it no longer seemed empty or hostile. It seemed like home.